Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, Republicans moving to block the Biden administration on abortion. The White House considering declaring a public health emergency on abortion to expand access across the country. Critics attacking the idea.
A public health emergency is supposed to be declared so you can save lives. And in this case, they want to declare one to end life.
The revival, which began at Asbury University in Kentucky, now moving to other college campuses. We'll bring you a look at some of the places where it's spreading. As the war in Ukraine reaches its one-year anniversary, Ukrainians explain why they believe it's so important to fight against the Russian invasion.
If we don't stop them now, my grandchildren must fight in maybe 20 years later. We must stop this.
President Biden accuses Republicans of wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, but analysts on both sides warn those programs need help to keep going.
We don't have enough working young people right now to keep up with our aging population. So Social Security is going to run out of money earlier than any of us thought.
And the oldest Hebrew Bible manuscript in existence.
Scholars have researched this Bible, and it's very, very close, almost exactly what we have today.
It will soon go on auction, and it's expected to bring in tens of millions of dollars. Those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin this half hour in Washington, where Republicans are considering a bill to prevent President Biden from declaring a public health emergency on abortion that would expand access to it across the country. Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, many states have passed laws significantly restricting or banning abortions. CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson explains how it would work and how pro-life advocates are responding.
President Biden has vowed to do everything he can to protect access to abortion nationwide. His next move may go directly after those states with pro-life laws on the books.
If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
In late January, Axios reported Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra's decision to consider different options for expanding abortion access, including a potential emergency declaration.
A public health emergency is supposed to be declared so you can save lives. And in this case, they want to declare one to end life.
Such a move could open up federal funding for women to travel for an abortion if their state bans the procedure, and also make abortion medication more widely available.
To think that you can crush state laws, suppress the voices of people, so that you can end more life in the womb, it's an extraordinary overreach.
While the administration has hinted in the past this decision does not seem like a great option, Becerra confirmed to Axios HHS is doing an evaluation on abortion to determine whether an emergency declaration is needed.
I find it just absolutely confounding to think that protecting life could be declared a national health emergency.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin tells CBN News he's astounded this is being considered.
There's a moment here for us as Americans to step back and recognize the extremism on display here.
Abortion is currently legal in Virginia until 26 weeks and 6 days into pregnancy. Governor Youngkin hopes to bring the threshold down to when a child can feel pain at 15 weeks.
Virginians have been very clear. They want to see fewer abortions, not more. Unfortunately, and very disappointingly, the Senate Democrats have failed to listen to Virginians and instead have tried to progress a constitutional amendment to make abortion on demand.
A 2022 Wall Street Journal poll found more Americans support a 15-week abortion ban than oppose it. According to the Charlotte Lozier Institute, approximately 6% of all reported abortions take place at or after 15 weeks. Most of those are often performed for the same reasons as earlier abortions, such as delays in recognizing the pregnancy or taking more time to decide to terminate it. President Biden continues to state he only supports unrestricted abortion access.
Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade.
In Virginia, Youngkin says although Democrats controlling the Senate are unwilling to even discuss the issue, he's going to keep pressing and hopefully make progress. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
The wave of revival that began at Asbury University in Kentucky is spreading to other college campuses, and it shows no signs of stopping. Pastor D.R. Harrison at Voice of Hope Evangelistic Ministry shared a photo on Facebook from the awakening at Texas A&M University, saying students gathered to worship and cry out to God for revival on their campus and that God is moving. And Paul Worcester, founding director of Christian Challenge and Campus Multiplication Network, tweeted early signs of revival are now cropping up at Eastern Kentucky University. He posted a photo of students worshiping together early Monday morning. You can keep up with the progress of the revival at cbnnews.com and right here on CBN NewsWatch. Also, Asbury University is hosting the Collegiate Day of Prayer for Revival and Awakening on college campuses. It features testimonies and a commissioning for those spreading the revival. The service will be live streamed from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. You can watch it on the CBN News channel or on the 700 Club YouTube channels or by downloading the CBN News and CBN Family apps. I want to turn now to Turkey, where life will never be the same after the massive earthquakes that took tens of thousands of lives earlier this month. As survivors deal with grief and look to the future, CBN's Operation Blessing is on hand to bring spiritual comfort and practical help. Chris Mitchell brings us one family's story of suffering and survival.
Behind me is one of the scenes the world has been watching since February 6th when the earthquake struck. This is the city of Kahramanmaraş, one of the worst hit cities in the region. And for nearly 300 miles, the earthquake zone has left behind a trail of ruined buildings and changed lives. Families like the Dukaklis, about 200 miles away in the city of Hatay. The lives of so many of these Turkish families are marked by before and after the earthquake. And we sat down with Phyllis and her family in this temporary tent to hear their story.
Well, before the earthquake, I had my own business. I was making bread and pastry. Well, everything was going very well. But now, unfortunately, after the earthquake, I have no job and my workplace was destroyed. But right now, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to go back to my bakery anymore.
Phyllis made all sorts of Turkish baked goods, but the earthquake and its aftermath took its toll on her livelihood, her family, and the children.
Our fear was too great. I don't know when my children's psychology will improve because, unfortunately, we even had to remove the corpses. Even my uncle's markets were destroyed. We had to remove the bodies ourselves. Things are very bad.
The family now lives in this tent.
We are staying here. In other words, we are afraid that we cannot go home because the aftershocks continue. Children need education. Yes, that is my biggest concern. I don't know what will happen to the education of the children.
After the quake, Operation Blessing came to help. They visited the family, provided food, and examined the grandfather suffering from post-traumatic shock.
Blessing upon blessing comes to us. We're always waiting for you. You supported us. Thank you very much. Many thanks to those who did this. We're so proud. We got emotional. It made us even more happy.
Also, thank you for coming and making us feel welcome. It is nice. We felt that we were not alone. God bless you.
For Phyllis, her goal is to bake again.
I hope to continue my work elsewhere, and I will invite you there. There will be treats from me. I make tandoori bread. If we get a chance, we are proud to present it to you.
On this day, the OB team came as friends and left as family. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Hatay, Turkey.
If you'd like to help Operation Blessing's disaster relief efforts after this horrible tragedy, you can do so by calling 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com. You can also send your donation directly to Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund, CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463, or text OBDR to 7177. Anything you're able to do is greatly needed and appreciated. Coming up, it has been 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine. Thousands have died, millions more have fled, and neither side is backing down. We're going to bring you a look at what's happened so far and what may come next. Stay with us. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine. CBN's contributor Chuck Holton has been on the ground reporting on the war throughout the fighting, and he brings us this look at the trials and triumphs of the Ukrainian people during these dark times.
February 24th, 2022, life as Ukrainians knew it comes to an end. a full-scale invasion by land, sea, and air as Russian troops pour into Ukraine. World leaders immediately levy sanctions on Russia.
The Russian military has begun a brutal assault on the people of Ukraine. Without provocation, without justification, without necessity, this is a premeditated attack.
More than 70,000 Russian troops try to encircle the capital, Kyiv, but the advance bogs down quickly. Russian troops are poorly trained, led, equipped, and very poorly motivated. They encounter fierce resistance.
Here, you can see that they are taking the sand out of the children's playground and using them to make sandbags with.
If we don't stop them now, my grandchildren must fight in maybe 20 years later. We must stop this.
As the invasion bogs down in late spring, Russia resorts to long-range missile strikes, causing thousands of civilian casualties and billions in property damage. Hospitals, homes, and schools are often the targets.
This lady behind me, his name is Olga, and her home was destroyed by a very large missile. Blew up all the houses in this area. It's just a residential district. There's no military targets here or anything. She's a Russian speaker. She's lived in this house all her life, and she has no plans, no money to be able to go anywhere else. So she's just sort of sifting through the rubble at this point, trying to decide what to do next.
By April, it's clear the Ukrainians will hold Kyiv, and Russia pulls back to refocus their combat power in the east. After the withdrawal, liberated areas reveal horrific Russian war crimes and human rights abuses. Russia captures Mariupol in May after 4 months of costly fighting. Thousands die in the process, and the city is reduced to ruin. As Russian cruise missiles, cluster munitions, and thermobaric weapons fall, Ukrainian farmers cannot ship their grain to market, causing another humanitarian crisis. Wheat supplies plummet, causing a global shortage. Concerns about fighting at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant dominate the summer airwaves as Russia holds the facility hostage and endangers its employees.
What's at stake is the nuclear safety and security of the biggest nuclear power plant in the European continent.
Ukraine launches a counteroffensive in September. They quickly liberate over 600,000 square kilometers in the north, and soldiers say donated American equipment makes the difference.
One of our soldiers with the technology, it's stronger than maybe 10 or 20 soldiers from Russia. This helps us to win.
Ukrainians also get creative with off-the-shelf technology, using standard camera drones to take out hundreds of Russian tanks. Suffering heavy losses, Putin orders the first military mobilization since World War II. More than 1 million Russian men flee to avoid conscription. September, Russia annexes 4 Ukrainian oblasts. The Crimean Bridge is bombed days later. Soon afterward, the Ukrainian army retakes Kherson, handing the Russians their worst defeat yet and sparking street celebrations. These Christians moved in to pray for their city.
I can't even express what I'm feeling. It's a happiness, and for me, it's a mountain that was impossible to be moved, but it was moved only by God.
Russia targets critical infrastructure as winter approaches, using the cold as a weapon. Daily rocket attacks leave many Ukrainian villages without electricity, water, or heat. Battle lines harden as President Zelensky requests more aid because his army is firing more artillery in a month than most countries acquire in a year. Operation Blessing and Orphan's Promise have been assisting Ukrainian Christians since the beginning, providing desperately needed help to the frontline areas and displaced families across the country.
And I see that these people who are still be here, this church, who are serve people here, they fighting for me too. It's like another level of soldiers.
1 year after the invasion, Russia has yet to realize any of its strategic goals, and escalation seems increasingly likely as NATO deploys more troops to their eastern border. A new Russian offensive with up to 500,000 troops hopes to defeat the Ukrainians before they can field promised tanks and long-range weaponry. But Ukraine now has a 1 million-man army and is better prepared and equipped. Experts say the war could last years, but whether Ukraine gets the weapons it needs in the next few months could make all the difference. From Ukraine, I'm Chuck Holden for CBN News.
Still ahead, it could be one of the biggest issues of next year's election, the future of Social Security and Medicare, and why they need changes in order to keep operating. we're going to hear from a young voice commentator about his views on what should be done. Right after this, stay with us. Former Vice President Mike Pence says Congress has to be able to consider the growing debt problems with entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare. Pence's remarks on CNBC came only days after the Congressional Budget Office reported the Social Security Trust Fund could run out of money by 2033. Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, commentator Travis Nix of Young Voice explains what he believes must be done to save Social Security.
A report that came out last week by the Congressional Budget Office actually moved up Social Security's decline to 2032 due to the rising inflation, which has Social Security as a cost of living adjustments. We're paying more. Social Security is failing because simply we don't have enough young people in the United States to keep up with our aging population. Social Security functions like a pyramid scheme, in that when you pay your payroll taxes, your money is not just sitting in a lockbox collecting interest. It's paying the current retirees. And so we don't have enough working young people right now to keep up with our aging population. So Social Security is going to run out of money earlier than any of us thought. So it needs to be reformed significantly.
Well, right now, employers and employees pay a combined payroll tax about 12.4%. That's 6.2% each. So in your recent article for the Wall Street Journal, you contend lifting the payroll tax cap, thus generating more revenue with higher payroll taxes, won't solve the crisis. So you call it a Ponzi scheme. You had mentioned that. So why? Why won't it solve it?
So the way that the payroll tax works is it's capped right now at around $160,000. So lawmakers in both parties want to lift that cap and basically have higher income people pay more in payroll taxes. And what they fail to understand is that the U.S., we have a very progressive income tax. So we have a 37% top individual rate. You have states imposing state taxes as high as 13% in New York and California. So what raising the payroll tax would do is for some of our best workers in their economy, our doctors, our innovators, our inventors, to pay basically tax rates at around 70%. So that's every dollar that they would make above like $150,000 would be taxed at 70%. So 70 cents out of every dollar would be going to the government. That makes them think long and hard about exiting the economy, spending more time at home instead of out in the workforce, innovating, inventing, and being some of our most productive members. So it would have disastrous economic effects and not raise the tax revenue needed to save Social Security.
I've talked to many Americans they're about your age, I'd say, who are just starting their careers. Most of them don't think Social Security will be there for them when they retire. Seems our politicians always go for temporary fixes to get them through the next election. They kick the can down the road. So you say our lawmakers need to think bigger, longer term, to bring serious structural reforms to save Social Security. So what do they need to do, Travis?
Yeah, exactly. Just raising taxes just kicks the can down the road. It doesn't fix the structural problems with Social Security. One of the biggest things lawmakers should do is return Social Security to what it was when it started in the Great Depression, which was a social safety net for lower income seniors who had just lost everything in the Great Depression. So they need to have an income cap on Social Security, a flat benefit program that caps the amount of money that people can get out of Social Security at around $15,000 to $20,000. One of the problems with Social Security right now is if you make $200,000 a year for your entire career, you're getting the most out of the Social Security. And you're getting about 1.5 times what you put in. That makes no sense. It needs to be a social safety net for our lower income seniors. That's the only way to, if we're going to have Social Security in the future, we need to return Social Security to its original idea and not basically it be a little retirement plan for wealthy Americans.
Well, it seems to make more sense. If you make $200,000 a year, why would you really need Social Security? You should be making investments and so forth. Okay, Young Voices commentator, tax law student at Georgetown University, Travis Nix. Thank you, Travis, for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also on this week's episode of The Global Lane, the Ukrainian war about to enter year 2. The question is there any end in sight? We're also going to have Gary Lane's commentary about revival at Asbury, asking the question, did the university preempt the Holy Spirit? You can see these stories and more on The Global Lane. It begins this evening on the CBN News Channel at 8:30 Eastern. You can also download the CBN News app or watch it on YouTube. Coming up, the oldest known Hebrew Bible manuscript will be going on auction in May. It is expected to fetch an incredible price, tens of millions of dollars. We're going to bring you the story when we come back. Stay with us. The oldest and most complete Hebrew Bible ever discovered is expected to bring in $30 to $50 million when it's auctioned off by Sotheby's in May.
What you see behind you is a Bible written over a millennia ago, around the year 900, in the land of Israel or Syria. Before this, portions of the Bible had only appeared in Dead Sea Scrolls. Scholars have researched this Bible, and it's very, very close, almost exactly what we have today.
The manuscript is written in the same Hebrew script that's been used for hundreds of years. It will be coming to auction for the first time in 30 years, and Min says it will be the most valuable printed manuscript or historical document by estimate ever offered at auction. Time now for your Thursday Thankful, and today I trust you'll join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, I thank you for the air I breathe. The ability to inhale and exhale on my own is a gift. I won't take it for granted. It is a constant reminder of your presence and the very gift of life. And to this prayer, I say, amen and amen. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us at the address right there at the bottom of the screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly would love to hear from you. Make this a thankful Thursday and join us right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.